Jurors must decide whether one or all three of the men are guilty of murder.
A 9-count indictment charges all three men with 1 count of malice murder, 4 counts of felony murder, 2 counts aggravated assault, 1 count of false imprisonment, and 1 count of criminal attempt to commit false imprisonment.
And local attorney and legal analyst Gene Nichols is here with us to help better understand the charges in this case. So, Gene, if you'd help us, maybe understand the difference, because it sounds a little different in Georgia as well, this malice murder versus felony murder.
Absolutely. So, Kent, how Georgia is different is that here in Florida, we have first degree, second degree, and that's what we've always heard. In Georgia, they first start with what they call malice murder. And a malice murder is going to challenge whether or not somebody committed the crime with intent. If they didn't commit the crime with intent, if they did it with sort of a depraved indifference of heart, then they can be charged with malice murder. And it's similar to really our second degree. It does not have to have a premeditation. As long as there was an intent to commit a murder, then they can be found guilty of malice murder. What we have in this case is we then have felony murder. And in felony murder, what happens is if there was a death during the commission of a certain felony, then you can be found guilty of felony murder. In this case, the government has charged these gentlemen with 4 different felonies. We know that we have the crime of false imprisonment. We know we have an attempt of false imprisonment. We know we have an aggravated assault and then another aggravated assault. One is using the car, the other is using a gun. If they're found guilty of those felonies and the jury determines that there was a death involved with those, then they can be charged with felony murder or convicted of felony murder. So again, you have the malice murder, then you have the 4 felonies, and then the 4 felony murder charges.
And there are 5 murder counts, but again, only 1 person died. So can you explain that to us?
Right. So again, what we have is you have the malice murder, and then you have the 4 felony murders. So if there's a determination that one of the felonies was committed, let's say aggravated assault, pointing the gun, and Ahmaud Arbery died during the commission of that crime, then they can be found guilty of felony murder. When it's all said and done, if they are found guilty of multiple murders, they will merge them together into one sentence. But they can be found guilty of multiple murders because of the different felonies that were committed.
Gene, and as we talked ahead of our chance to interview you here, how does the false imprisonment charge play into this? And I think specifically, how does this weigh into that third person who's involved here, William Roddy Bryan?
So on the false imprisonment, when you see the vehicles turn and stop him, and then subsequently when they detained him for no lawful reason, that's the argument anyway of the government, then that's where the false imprisonment comes into play. And so the question becomes in Georgia, as well in Florida, if you were a part of the commission of a crime with somebody else, if the 3 of us went and committed a crime, but I'm the one waiting outside and you 2 went inside, then we will all be part of that crime. So you just can't run away from being a part of the crime, even if you're in the second car. So in this situation, the government is prosecuting them all for the same set of facts, saying that Roddy Bryan, even though he was in a separate car, is part of the commission of this crime. So therefore, he is as guilty as the others. And
even if he didn't pull a trigger here that took somebody's life, he's charged with this murder because he was part of that death during a felony, I guess.
That's exactly right. He is a part of the entire incident that happened, and that's what the argument is. The defense, of course, has argued he's not. The defense is trying to separate him from what the McMichaels did and trying to argue that he was not a part of the commission of these felonies, that he did not know that the McMichaels had a gun, that he did not know the McMichaels were going to do what they did. So that's how he's trying to get himself out of a murder charge.
The defense has also said that Arbery had committed a burglary. We hear that over and over, but was there any evidence that that crime had been committed?
Nobody seemed to present any during this trial. So where they are trying to argue the burglary is that if these defendants were stopping Ahmaud Arbery, they had the right under Georgia law at that time to detain him if they had seen him commit a felony. So the argument is that he was committing a burglary. However, there's no evidence that's been presented that he was committing a burglary. There have been plenty of inferences that he did, but an inference is not evidence, and that's what the government argued so strongly in their closing.
And no trespassing, even though he's been seen on video going into the home. She was trying to say that he was committing burglary, but you'd think it might have been trespassing.
And even with the trespass, the Georgia law, which has subsequently been thrown out by the legislature, said that they had to be committing a felony in somebody's presence. So in this situation, it has to be a burglary for them to be able to use the statute that says that they were trying to make a citizen's arrest. The citizen's arrest goes out the window if they don't prove that Ahmaud Arbery was committing a felony in that neighborhood and that they saw it. So that's why they're probably not going to have that defense in this trial.
All right, Gene, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight.
Yeah.